This is the Deeper Dive presented by Awesemo.com. I am Dave Lochran. That fine fella to my right is Adam Shar, and we've got well, I want to say a wonderful show, but it's going to be a wild one. No question. Trade deadline at 3 p.m. If you missed any of that and you want to catch up on it later on, Josh Engelman and Eddie Fear did a trade deadline show, so you can check that out on the YouTube channel. But we are here to break down a 6-game slate. Adam, you had the deep dive today. I've had it on trade deadline days before, and it can be brutal. What was your, and honestly, yesterday was actually a pretty wild article to write. But how did it go for you today? Did you just start late because it would have made no sense to start early? How did you go about it?
Yeah, I started late. I went through and I projected minutes for teams that I didn't think would make trades, and then just kind of sat around and waited for the contending teams and the teams that we knew were like looking to sell pieces. One thing that I think is nice today is we didn't really get screwed over anywhere where there's just like obvious, for the most part, where there's like super obvious must play cheap value. There's obviously like Memphis value, but those guys are priced up on both sites because of their last game. The Clippers are shorthanded, but for the most part, those guys are, the guys that you would be interested in are priced up. So on trade deadline day, obviously there's a tendency to just have a ton of, really, really cheap, good plays. And at least like we didn't really get that today.
Right. Yeah, I was surprised that we didn't actually. I thought we'd see more of that. Let's just go ahead and, we're not gonna break down every trade of teams that aren't on this slate, because that's what the trade deadline show is for. We encourage you to watch it when you get the chance. But we will quickly just go through each team. I'll throw it to you so we can keep this quick and concise and ask you what trades, if any, made a difference and an impact for today. Adam, are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's make it happen. First, we've got the LA Clippers. We know about Tobias Harris. That happened yesterday. Any further moves with the Clippers that you're eyeing up that affect them? My guess is this is one of the teams that we're definitely going to have. And by the way, players being waived, we can also talk about them as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Avery Bradley headed to the Grizzlies, Marcin Gortat being waived, Mike Muscala being sent to the Lakers in exchange for Beasley and Zubats. Beasley is expected to be waived. Zubats will not, but he's not there yet anyway. So you definitely have a very shorthanded team with the Clippers here.
Yeah, big time. So no Gortat, no Bradley. Muscala wasn't going to play anyway, but still, he's no longer there. And no Tobias Harris. So as far as I know, they've got, I think, 8 active players tonight?
9.
They do have 9? Okay.
Yeah, Gallinari's back.
Oh, that's right. Gallo is back. Okay, next team. You know what? No, we'll go game by game. I think that'll make more sense here. And we will kick off each team with the moves that have been made. That'll be easier so we don't have to circle back. Let's talk about the Clippers against the Pacers. Look, we're doing it as we go here. This is our first trade deadline on the day show at Awesemo.com. I'm sure we've done others, but we're gonna fly by the seat of our pants and we're gonna make it work. And of course, as always, we're glad to have you fellas here with us. Anyway, Pacers 6.5-point favorites, 218 total. I said earlier in the day I really liked Lou Williams if Gallo was out. His rates are insane with Tobias and Gallo off the court. Although they are very good with Gallinari on and just Tobias Harris off. But now we've got 9 players, Adam. We've got no Marcin Gortat. We've got no Boban Marjanovic. Basically, we have Montrezl Harrell, no Muscala either, and good old Jonathan Motley. So let's talk about this team. Of course, you mentioned Avery Bradley's gone as well. We'll do our best to recap these throughout so we get it stuck in your heads for those of you that didn't have the time to pay attention to every trade. Let's talk about the Clippers, man.
Yeah, so I mean, the Clippers are my favorite team on the slate that got impacted by trades. Them and Memphis obviously are the two that were impacted the most. But with the Clippers, you have legitimate NBA players who produce at a high clip now potentially being forced into more minutes, even if not really more minutes, at least, more or better per minute production without Tobias Harris. So, you mentioned Lou Williams. I absolutely love him here. He played over 500 minutes without Harris on the floor this season. He's averaged 1.4 DraftKings points per minute. Gallinari being back, obviously puts another relatively high usage guy on the floor. But it's still a really nice spot for Williams, whether he joins the starting lineup or comes off the bench. And you should see him get, 32 to 34 minutes. Avery Bradley was playing around 30 minutes a game. He's not there anymore. Some of those minutes, probably go to some combination of Thornwell and Wallace, but Williams still clearly a priority for the Clippers here, and they're going to need his offense. So I like him a lot.
And you have the concern that you have a concern, of course, that maybe this game gets out of hand, but really you can't worry about that too much. The spread is still relatively small, and you mentioned the usage, but he's also got like a 37.5% usage rate with Harris off the court as well. So it's not just what did I say? Sorry,
usage.
Sorry, 38% assist rate to accompany a 36% usage rate. Really big numbers from Lou Williams. I know he's expensive, but if this game is close, I wouldn't be surprised. Seriously, I would not be surprised to see Lou Williams play 35 minutes here.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, you mentioned the blowout potential. It's there. It's there in almost every game on this slate. But also, you're talking about an Indiana team that is without their best player. And the Clippers didn't, obviously losing Harris is big, but they do have Gallinari back now. But the moves they made today, they didn't really lose anything except minutes. Like Gortat doesn't matter. Bradley doesn't matter. So it's not a whole lot different in that regard than it was, this morning for the Clippers. And you mentioned how thin the front court is. Montrezl Harrell, I think, could play 34 to 36 minutes here. He's averaged obviously about 1.1 fantasy points per minute over the last month, 0.15 for the season. And there's just not another center to really take minutes from him. Jonathan Motley, I don't really see any way that he can play less than like 24 to 26 minutes here. He's really the only other big on this team. And he's averaged, he's only played 89 minutes this season, but he's averaged 1.2 points per minute. Even if you pull that back a little bit, because we don't expect that kind of production long-term at a minimum price tag, probably playing at least 24 minutes. He's absolutely my favorite value play on this slate.
Yeah, 100%. How many? Okay, so what's he at in per minute production on the year?
1.2.
1.2. And obviously, right. I was going to say, obviously, we don't exactly have the biggest sample. So it's, by the way, to be fair, 86 minutes. But oh no, you might be right. It might be 89. Obviously, doesn't matter. I did a quick calculation there. You could be right. So to me, that doesn't really matter because you don't have Bowen, you don't have Gortat. I guess the question is, okay, how many minutes do you have Montrezl Harrell projected for?
I have him at 34. I don't think
32.
36 would even be unreasonable.
Me neither. I have him at 32 for now, but it could be more. What do you have Motley at?
26.
You have him at 26. Okay. So we expect to see them play alongside each other a bit here. And I mean, they really are short. At the guard, like you have Williams, you have Beverly, you have Gilgeous-Alexander. They are expected to, or they did already waive Teodosic, who, man, did he fizzle out quick or what? Shamit's not there yet. I suppose Wallace is still on the roster. Yeah, he is. Right. So Wallace, Thornwell, Robinson. Right. So they have a lot of guards, and plenty of guys that can soak up minutes at the wing. And I know you said this, but I kind of want to reiterate it. In the front court, they are unbelievably scarce. Even if Gallo's back, like the guy's been out for 3 weeks now, or 2.5 weeks now, I don't think he jumps back into a 30+ minute per game role. So I think your minute projection on Motley makes sense here. They're very short, and they're very, very short in the front court. Yeah, I mean, I know at 32 minutes, I haven't seen anything about his playing time, but without a statement saying that he's like fully good to go, I really can't go higher than that comfortably, and it wouldn't be surprising if he plays less. Also, out of those 80 whatever minutes Motley has played this year, 33 of them were alongside Harrell. So it's not like they're doing like some gymnastics here to get them on the floor together. Like they've already played together. It's even a pretty big Indiana front court at times. So it's just really, if you go through and just map out position by position with the guard spots, there's like so many different ways that you can go to get minutes. But then you get to the front court and it's just like, okay, so Gallinari's playing X amount of minutes, and then there's 2 guys to play the rest. Right. Yeah, this is a Clippers team that I have a ton of interest in, even though, what would have been nice? It would have been nice if we were getting them at price points that were a little bit depressed, but some of them have been playing so well already that we don't get that, right? Like Lou
Right.
Will had been, but at the same time, maybe it suppresses ownership. It's possible. If Lou Will was like 5,900 or 6K on DraftKings, he'd be so ridiculously popular.
Right, and I think that this is a pretty fun tournament slate, especially on DraftKings, but overall too. And I will get your opinion on it later, obviously. But with Memphis, like Memphis, obviously was what you had to have the last time they played, and they're in a very similar situation here. And they're cheaper than the Clippers guys. They're cheaper than some other guys that we'll talk about. I think there's a pretty good chance, and I haven't looked at our ownership projections yet, but I think there's a pretty good chance that people just go right back to Memphis. And it's not that that's bad. It's still fine, but they are priced up, and I don't think that they're necessarily better plays than a lot of other players on this slate. So I think it could end up being a really interesting one from an ownership standpoint.
I'm with you. Ray. Yeah, he's not exactly a looker, Ray. We have a question before we move on. Are we interested in Ty Wallace if he plays 20 minutes? I personally have no interest there, and I'll just tell you one reason why. Number one, not a very good player, but number two, they aren't that like. Yes, they're shorthanded compared to other teams, but they're not mega shorthanded at the guard positions. Williams, Beverly, Gilgeous-Alexander, Wallace, Robinson, Thornwell. I'm not saying all these guys are going to get a lot of minutes, but 20 minutes of Wallace is not enough for me. Any thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't have interest in those in Thornwell, Robinson, or Wallace. If you look at the Clippers rotation recently, Robinson's been the one getting the minutes, getting around like 16 a game. He's averaging for the season. He's averaged 19.6 DraftKings points per 36 minutes. So you can give him all the minutes in the world, and you're still not getting there. And then I assume that Thornwell and Wallace play similar or less minutes than Robinson. Like they all come in around 20, or maybe Robinson gets a little more and one of those guys gets a little less. But regardless, for one, I don't see them playing a ton. For two, they would have to play like the entire game for me to start being interested in them.
Right. And the last thing I'll say here is apparently the Clippers transferred two-way center Angel Delgado to the team from all right, so he might have a shot to play. I'll have to look into this to see if there's any merit to it. Even if he did, I would expect this to be simply an emergency type deal, and I wouldn't expect to see much run. I would still have Motley playing significant minutes. What's up, Josh?
So he's actually been playing like 33 minutes a game for their G League team. So at the very least, he's been getting a ton of run. I don't know what that's going to mean or anything.
I don't know.
At the very least, he's game ready to play whatever amount of minutes are out there. It's not like he's just been dragging ass for the G League team.
Oh yeah. I'm not saying that. I just don't know how G League minutes equate into actually getting run, or if this would be an emergency situation because they're so thin there.
Oh yeah, for sure. I just thought it was interesting that he was playing 33.6 minutes a game. I thought I was surprised. That's for sure.
Has he done what? Has he done well with those minutes?
Averaging 17 and 11. Nope, 17 and 15.
Whew. How about that Delgado?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know. It's worth keeping an eye on. Here's the good news, Adam, and thanks, Josh. This is a 7 p.m. game, so we should know. Like if he's going to be on the roster, and we should get word prior to. So we'll keep an eye out for that. Indiana, on the other side of this one. Earlier this morning, I talked about Lou Williams, having a lot of love for him, and depending on the other trades, it could open things up. But even without any trades, Miles Turner was in a really, really favorable spot, and you've got a bunch of these guys at pretty realistic price points. Any notable trades for the Pacers that you're looking at? Anybody gone that you want to talk about? And then we'll get into the players.
Nope, they traded for Nick Stauskas and Wade Baldwin, and then immediately waived both of them.
I think they're getting Wes Matthews too, but not sure how much that really matters at all for tonight. It doesn't. It's not like he would play. So let's talk about him, man. We've got Collison. We've got Bojan Bogdanovic. Again, I love Turner here. You've got Thad Young, Domantas Sabonis. A lot of these guys right in that high 6K, high 5K, low 6K price point. And no real high usage guys on this team to soak up all of the volume.
Yeah, this is a team where I like a ton of guys. Turner, I absolutely love. Like Turner is a priority for me on this slate because he's averaged 1.13 fantasy points per minute without Oladipo this season. He's playing 30 to 32 minutes in competitive games. It was already a very favorable matchup against the Clippers. And, front court just got even better. It's a spot where he has some block upside going against a undersized high usage center in Harrell as well. There's a ton of reasons to like Turner here. Beyond him, there's still a lot of plays from this team where obviously if you're playing one lineup, you don't want to just play like 5 Pacers in your lineup. But if you're playing a bunch of different teams, you mix and match these other guys. You have Thad Young, who without Oladipo on the floor this season has nearly a 16% assist percentage and is playing around 34 minutes a game here in a really good spot. You have Sabonis, who obviously you don't want to play with Turner, but his price tag has come down. He's in the same excellent spot that Turner is. If he gets 24 minutes, I have him as a good play. If Turner gets in foul trouble or something, then Sabonis becomes a great play. Collison is averaging about a 35.5% assist percentage without Oladipo on the floor this season. I have him projected for about a fantasy point per minute here. Bogdanovich is playing, 34 to 36 minutes. Doug McDermott still isn't back, so those minutes are really solidified.
Mhm.
Even Tyreek Evans in 26 minutes, he's probably my least favorite out of that entire group, but that's like 6 or 7 guys on this team that I think are, pretty solid plays.
Yep, exactly. Where would you rank Turner among centers today in terms of priority preference?
He's my favorite mid-range center. I would say that on DraftKings, he's behind Towns, and on FanDuel, he's behind Vooch.
Okay. And that is pretty much exactly where I would put him as well. I really like him, though. Hey, Miles Turner's let me down many times in the past, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it happen today. But I've been I know you have too, very encouraged with his playing time recently. And ignore that Lakers game. They won by 100 points. I remember everyone saying back-to-back, man. They don't have a chance. Hey, don't play these guys on a back-to-back. Well, they only won by 42 points. But yeah, his per minute rate was sick in that game. He can't rebound.
Yeah, he had like 32 points.
Yeah, he can't rebound for shit. But this is such a good rebounding and scoring matchup and shot blocking matchup. Only 2 teams have been blocked more than the Clippers this year. So everything is in Turner's wheelhouse for this matchup.
That's actually interesting. I hadn't looked at the stat. I had just said it was a good shot blocking matchup because it made sense that it would be. I didn't realize it was that good.
Oh yeah. And centers, I think, have the 4th or 5th most blocks against them this season. And in case you were wondering, last I looked, which was 2 days ago, Turner leads the league in block shots per game. So really good spot.
His line against the Lakers was insane. It was like 24 actual points, 4 blocks, and I think he grabbed 1 board.
1 rebound. He's not a good rebounder, but what are you going to do? He should be able to get some tonight. Let's make our move over to Orlando and Minnesota here. The Minnesota Timberwolves are 3-point dogs. Would you look at that? 3-point dogs. And the Orlando Magic, brand new owners of Markelle Fultz. Wow. You look at that. 3-point favorites at home, 215.5 total. Relevant moves for the Orlando Magic. Go.
Well, they traded Jonathan Simmons, who was questionable for this game. So he's out now. That really just helps it gives you a couple more minutes for Fournier. He's been playing around 34. It makes Terrence Ross a little bit more appealing, but not a whole lot that matters. Yep,
pretty much. And I already liked those guys just in terms of value. A little bit different after the trade when you're talking about a little bit more value opening up, but nothing insane. I still have interest in Fournier at this price. I think Ross in tournaments, based just on the ridiculous usage and shot volume that he's seeing in those 26, 28 minutes per game, upwards of 30 or more at times as well, put them firmly in play against a bad Minnesota defense in a relatively pace-up spot. And then, of course, Vooch. The interesting thing with Vooch is, and you already alluded to this a moment ago when I asked you the Miles Turner question, 96 on FanDuel compared to Karl Anthony Towns at 11-1. On DraftKings, he's 9,300 compared to Karl Anthony Towns at 9,900. So there is a distinct difference there between priority on Vooch and Towns for across DraftKings and FanDuel.
Yeah, no question. I mean, Vooch obviously has been playing really, really well, and I know you've talked about it a lot. We're seeing him play 34 minutes much more frequently than we were earlier in the season, where he was normally coming in around 32, and you would occasionally get a 34-minute game. This is one where I fully expect him to play as many minutes as possible, up to like 34, barring foul trouble or anything. He's averaged 1.4 fantasy points per minute since the start of January. He's been playing really, really well. It really just comes down to where he is priced relative to Cat, because Towns is like a 1.55 to 1.6 fantasy point per minute guy. So if they're priced almost the same, you're still needing a bad game from Cat combined with a good game from Vooch by their standards on a per minute basis to want Vooch there. But on FanDuel, where you get a massive like $1,500 price difference, and Vooch is like kind of by himself, he becomes a really good play, because I do think it's a good matchup here. Like there's nothing in the Minnesota front court defensively that I expect to slow down Vooch.
Exactly. Nothing at all. And I like him quite a bit. I think Fournier is fine as well, though. I mean, you had said he is getting really solid run. And while Fournier isn't exactly a stellar point per minute guy, his assist rate is actually up this season from what it's been. Usage, what is he, still around 25%? He's
at 20.5 since the start of January.
That's pretty rough. But again, usage comes down with more minutes played, unless you're taking more shots with it. And he's playing more minutes. Now, come down 5%? No. But if you went from playing like 30 minutes to 36 minutes in a lot of these games, especially in competitive games, then taking the same amount of shots, or even one or two more, it could show up. We saw that with Tim Hardaway, but I think he's cheap enough. I think Terrence Ross is okay. And then Aaron Gordon's sitting there still at a pretty reasonable salary. What do you make of the non-Vooch players for this Magic squad?
Yeah, you're on your own with Fournier here, but I do like Aaron. I do like Aaron Gordon also. The problem with Gordon is that the power forward position on this slate is just ridiculously stacked with, you have multiple Memphis guys at that position. You have multiple Toronto guys at the position. You have Montrezl Harrell at the position. You have Motley at the position. So it's real tough to get to other power forwards. You have Aldridge at the top as well. That being said, it should keep ownership down on him. And it's not like it's a bad matchup, but it's just hard to say like Gordon's a priority because the position's incredibly deep.
Yeah, it's very deep. Pretty volatile player. There is a ceiling here. It's not.
Yeah.
But
and you can play him at small forward on DraftKings, which is nice.
Right. Yeah, I don't mind it. And by the way, like I always say, like Fournier, over his last 10 games, he's still averaging 14 field goal attempts per game. So it's not like he's not getting shots up. It's just a lot of times he doesn't make them. But
yeah, he's not very good.
Yeah, he's not a particularly great player. I clearly have a little bit more interest in him than you. I'm not enamored with really anybody here outside of Vooch, where you're getting him cheap. But I think you could make an argument for all of them in tournaments. On the other side, and hey, maybe DJ Augustine is going to fight for his job today, hoping that he doesn't get overtaken by Markelle Fultz. How's that for a narrative?
Is Fultz good to play?
I don't know. Has he ever been?
I don't know. I mean, it's a Philadelphia medical staff. I never have any idea what's going on.
Nope, neither do I. But yeah, no, I honestly, the reason I say I don't know is because they talk about this like injury, but do we even know if it's real at this point? Like, does he come into Orlando and he's like, I feel better. My shoulder feels good. Okay, let's go. I have no idea. I really don't. I have no clue.
I feel like that trade could, like, in 5 years, Fultz is either like out of the league or that trade ends up being like one of those like, holy shit, what were the Sixers doing? Even though now it made sense.
Right. Well, it's weird because the way I see it, it's like, was he ever going to work out for the Sixers? I don't know.
Right.
And if the answer is no and he works out somewhere else, was that Fultz that psychologically he was so messed up that it wasn't really on the Sixers? That is possible. Did the Sixers handle him the wrong way? Also very possible. But at least the Sixers didn't give him away for nothing. It's not like they got a massive haul for him, but it's not like his value was that high either. So I really, at this point in time where he's not helping you and in the near term or maybe ever for the Sixers, I don't think that was a bad trade for them as of now.
No, I think current moment it's good. I just think that in a few years it could be one of those where everyone's forgotten exactly what the circumstances were leading up to it, and they just look back and they're just like, "Wow, this was an awful trade," even though it really wasn't.
Right, for sure. Like the KG and Pierce trade. Oh my God, that was incredible. except a little different because those guys were once good and they traded them for everything when they weren't good anymore.
Right.
All right, Minnesota, what do we have here? Break down any relevant trade info, and then we'll keep it moving.
Yeah, nothing trade-wise. There is some injury notes. We have Derrick Rose out, Tyus Jones out. Jeff Teague upgraded to questionable. He went through most of shoot-around. There's also a quote from Teague saying that he hopes to be back soon. I don't really know what's going on there. It is the first game of a back-to-back. My best guess is that Teague sits this one out and then comes back tomorrow. So that's how I have it projected right now. But again, fortunately, it's the first game of the night, so we will find out. But yeah, nothing trade-wise.
Yeah. Chris A just sent us some information that Tyler Johnson will be starting. So for anyone playing DFS tomorrow, now you know.
I was about to say, well, they're on the slate.
No, tomorrow. But by the way, I am kind of stoked for Tyler Johnson starting a point guard for Phoenix. I'm a little excited about that. I think he could be pretty solid there.
Shooting guard.
What's that?
Shooting guard. Well, once Booker gets back, at least.
It says he's going to start at point guard on Friday. So because I'm assuming Booker's not going to be out or in. So
yeah,
I don't know. It says starting at point guard. Those were the info.
No, I thought you meant like going forward though, like with that.
Oh no. He plays the Warriors on Friday, and I feel like even if that game is a colossal disaster, I think Kokoskov just gives him 35 minutes. Like I really think Tyler Johnson's just going to run in that game. Now I don't care about the future with this stuff, Adam. This is present day shit or tomorrow.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah. Imagine that Booker moves back over to the 2 for Tyler Johnson. What a horrible but they had Isaiah Cannon playing 28 minutes a game, so who knows. Let's talk about Minnesota here then. The Teague news is really weird because he went from doubtful, as you said, participated in like most of shoot around, and now he's questionable. Do you have him as in or out right now? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I have him out right now. My best guess is that he comes back for tomorrow's game.
Okay. Well, if that's
just
the
because
case,
I assume my only reasoning, it's a total guess. My only reasoning is just like I doubt he's playing both legs of the back-to-back, so why wouldn't you just give him the extra day?
Sure. Yeah, it was just weird the way it went down today. Anyway, so Bayless is getting up there a bit, but he's playing 38 minutes per game. Same with Wiggins. He's $5,900 on DraftKings. Like you are getting the shot volume from him. He's even averaging, 2 or 3 more potential assists per game than he did earlier in the year before these 3 guards went out. So that's something, I guess. And then we already know how we feel. We like Towns sub 10K on DraftKings is just insane. So if you want to spill on him, that's fine. But let's talk about the backcourt here for Minnesota too.
Yeah, so I mean, if Teague's out, you get Jared Bayless coming off a disappointing game against Memphis. Another not great matchup against an Orlando team that plays slow and actually has a top 10 defense since the start of January. But assuming on this slate people are going to back off of Bayless, who was really popular against Memphis, you're still talking about a guy averaging 0.8 fantasy points per minute on Towns and Wiggins and playing 36-plus minutes a night. So he still ends up being a decent play. It's not a huge priority, but it's still a reasonable play. Same goes for Andrew Wiggins, who this season without Butler, Teague, or Rose on the floor, playing alongside Towns, has averaged just 0.79 DraftKings points per minute, which obviously is pretty bad. But when you talk about him being, 5,900 on DraftKings and, just down in that 6K range for a while now, still playing 36 to 38 minutes, he has a lot of upside here at the price tag. So especially because, shooting guard, small forward are both pretty weak positions today. So, some interest in both of those guys, not priorities. Towns, absolutely a priority on DraftKings. About 1.6 fantasy points per minute alongside Wiggins without Butler, Teague, or Rose. If Teague comes back, you see a hit in assist percentage for Towns, but still, tons of rebounding, tons of usage, up around 30% usage rate. So still really like him a lot, especially on DraftKings.
If Teague is out, Towns is legitimately your second best facilitator on this team.
Yeah.
Behind Bayless. I mean, it's crazy, but it's true. Like Wiggins, no. Rocco, no. Gibson, Saric, no. None of those guys. Covington's out, by the way, but just in general, none of those guys are going to get it done. I think Bayless is fine, not a priority. When you're getting up to that salary, it's tough. But I will point out that he's gone. He and Wiggins and Towns have had a pretty rough stretch of games recently. Memphis, Denver, Memphis, Utah, and then the Lakers prior to that. That's a pretty tough stretch of games, whether it be defensively or just pace. All pace down games, some of them extreme pace down games. This is at least a much better offensive spot for all of Minnesota than we've literally seen since like January 25th.
Yeah, it's not Utah, which is nice. Orlando has been good defensively lately, though.
Yeah, they're fine, but they're not Memphis, is all I'm saying. They're not Memphis. They're not even Utah. I still like this spot better. Memphis or Orlando's favored though. I like this spot for all of them simply because we're getting them at discounted price points, and that's kind of what makes what it is the most appealing to me. You want to move on to the next one here?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. By the way, Orlando Magic since the start of January are 7th in defensive rating, so there is that. But pace, they're middle of the league, right below middle of the league. Okay. Atlanta, Toronto, Atlanta Hawks here are 8.5 point dogs, 234 point total. Want to talk about a pace up spot for Toronto? You've got it. They're playing at the 13th fastest pace since the start of the new year. Atlanta at the 4th fastest pace, fastest on the season. Also, Atlanta just got awful defensively, which is no surprise. Let's talk about some trade moves here. We'll start with the road team, Toronto. New addition, Marc Gasol.
Yeah, Marc Gasol headed to Toronto. CJ Miles, DeLon Wright, and someone else going to Memphis. Greg Monroe also traded. So kind of sneaky shorthanded Toronto team here. Like they have bodies, but still, I think you can see a couple of extra minutes for a lot of their main guys. You have Ibaka and Siakam, who both played 30 minutes or less in their last 2 games, one of which was a huge blowout. But before that, they were playing, 34 to 36 plus minutes. And now you have Monroe shipped out. So I think that, especially against an Atlanta team where they can really easily do it, I expect that you see Ibaka and Siakam basically splitting the center minutes. And both of them probably play 34 to 36 minutes in a great spot here. Fred VanVleet should see more run without Wright or Miles out there. It gives you 2 really good plays in Ibaka and Siakam, and then probably a completely overlooked value option in Fred VanVleet.
Right. All right. Yeah, it was Miles, by the way, Miles, Joe Val, and DeLon Wright.
Yeah, I forgot about Joe Val.
Yeah. They're kind of a significant piece if they're going to use them. I mean, that'd be fun if Joe Val. Could you imagine if Joe Val started getting starting center minutes? That'd be pretty fun. I don't care what team he's on. That
would be a lot of fun.
Be a lot of fun.
And I assume, I guess they could just stay with Rob.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do. Even if Joe Val got like 27 minutes a night, I'd be pretty stoked about that. I definitely keep watch on that and see what his price tag looks like going forward, because that's something to very much pay close attention to. All right, let's go ahead and, well, you know what? Is there anything else on Toronto you want to talk about before we go to Atlanta?
Yes, I mean, I mentioned I like Ibaka and Siakam a lot. And there are 2 guys who they're priced really similarly to Darren Jackson. And I hope people go to Darren Jackson because of his last game. Like, everyone knows I like Darren Jackson, but I prefer Ibaka and Siakam here. You also have Danny Green as a pretty good value option. You have Kawhi Leonard, who I like more on FanDuel since you have to roster 2 small forwards. I'd rather roster Leonard here than LeBron in that price range against Boston.
All right, let's talk Atlanta. We've got the Hawks. Any big marquee moves for the Atlanta Hawks?
Yeah, they sent Tyler Dorsey for Shelvin Mack. And then,
that was it.
And then they waived Shelvin Mack.
Pretty incredible, huh? Look, 234 total in this game. So points will be scored. But, where will the points come from for Atlanta is always a big question. And now you've got Collins priced up. Granted, the guy's played very well. He's been great, when he's not hurt or in foul trouble, which he was in the past recent while. God, I don't know. I will let you break down this Atlanta team because I have a tough time really loving anyone. I get it. Trae Young is playing well. He's priced pretty reasonably, but in terms of priorities, it's going to be tough for me to get there.
In the price on DraftKings, I think is pretty nice at only 6,900. The minutes still, it's hard to be confident in minutes. There are obviously a lot of plays on the slate, so it's not a priority. But he is my favorite Atlanta play just because the price tag is very reasonable there. John Collins is my favorite player from Atlanta, and obviously he's really good. It's just that, as I mentioned before, the power forward position is really deep today. And so if you roster Collins, basically what you're doing is not only are you hoping he gets to the higher end of his minute range, we've seen him play anywhere from 27 to 39 minutes within the last 3 or 4 games. Not only are you hoping that he gets to the higher end of his minute range, you're hoping that he produces at a very high clip to justify paying over $8,000 for him when you could have paid like $6,000 or $6,300 or whatever for point per minute guys like Ibaka and Siakam. So you really need like a monster game from Collins combined with a handful of other guys to not be good for Collins to actually be a top play.
Right. Yeah, I'm just having trouble getting there. I think there are better options elsewhere. And we will talk about them. If there's anything else you want to touch on with this game, go for it. If not, I'm happy to move on so we can spend some time on these last 3.
Yep, happy to keep going.
All right. And before we do, we reference our ownership projections and the deep dive and everything we've got over there at awesomemode.com. We'd love for you to come over and check it out. And if you do so, you get 50% off, half off your first month of your membership at awesomemode.com. It's very easy to sign up. Why would we want to make it difficult? Go to awesomemode.com, click join now. It's on the right page, top right of the homepage. Pick out your subscription, whichever membership you'd like. And the next page, put in your info, your name. It takes 10 seconds. And then you will click have a coupon. Yes, you do. Click it, put in deeper dive, one word, deeper dive, all one word. And you check out. And there it is. You get your first month half off, 50% off your first month of membership at awesomemode.com. The ownership projections, the lineup builder, the fantasy cruncher add-on, the rankings, projections for all sports, all of our articles that go super in depth on everything. And of course, Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, his site, his stuff, his rankings, all of his content, everything over there on awesomemode.com. So use the promo code Deeper Dive. It is one word, Deeper Dive. And we'd love to have you over there. We will see you soon. By the way, we got a comment yesterday, and I am mentioning this. We had a comment. Because I want to point this out. We got a comment on yesterday's deep dive in the comment section below, right? And Adam, I'm gonna read you what it said because I find this to be relatively important because I want to let everybody know something. It's important to me, and I'm assuming it's important to you once I read it. The comment said, let's see here. Lyles is balking. I'm assuming he meant balling. Lyles is balling. We get y'all are trying to brainwash us with a brain emoji. Guess we have to pay to play with a bunch of other emojis. Now, I responded with, you realize Plumlee got into foul trouble in the first half and second half, right? And Lyles still only played 22 minutes. Lyles was on pace to play about 15 and Plumlee not gotten into trouble. And Malone hockey shifted the entire starting lineup in the second half. Lyles still only had 24 fantasy points. Now, the reason I say this is because we have some awesome content on awesomemode.com, right? Everything we just talked about, and we put a lot into it. But Adam, I think it's important to point out we don't hold back doing the deeper dive. Like we're not. The brainwashing comment is silly as all hell. But Lyles, as an example, was on pace to play way less than that had it not been for foul trouble and the early shift. We put time into this and we want to give you guys the best information we can. And yes, we hope that you do come over to Awesemo and join us in Slack chat and join us as members. That would be awesome. But that doesn't mean that we're sitting here not giving out our best information. I don't know what holding back is, and neither do you.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone who has talked to me for more than like 2 minutes knows that I really hate being wrong, and I would never like sit on YouTube and just like give information that I think is going to make me look dumb.
Yeah, it's not a great business model to just like give out garbage and hope people keep coming back.
Yeah, no question. It's not good personally. It's not a good business idea. It's like, why would you do it?
I just wanted to point that out. And we say it all the time, man. We appreciate all of our viewers. We appreciate you guys tuning in every day. And I think most of you guys are fully aware that we're not holding back or anything like that. But yeah, wanted you to know that. All right, let's move on here. We've got Boston and the Lakers. Lakers coming off of that drubbing. What's up, Ring Rim? To the Indiana Pacers, the shorthanded Indiana Pacers. The Boston Celtics are 8.5-point favorites with a 227-point total here. And, well, let's get into the trades, Adam. Boston Celtics, go ahead, sir.
Boston Celtics cemented their spot as the fourth best team in the East by doing absolutely nothing.
As Woj pointed out, they still have that shot at Anthony Davis, though.
Yeah, that they do.
Well, doesn't make a difference tonight, right? We live in the here and now. How about the Lakers?
They traded Zubats. They traded Michael Beasley. Beasley, obviously not that important, playing like 6 to 8 minutes at this point. Zubats is important. I assume you see McGee get into the starting lineup, pick up more minutes. I assume that you see Kuzma get some time at the 5. That was all of note, I believe, though.
That it?
Yeah, I think so. I feel like I'm missing something, but if I am, it wasn't anything major.
Anything important. Yeah, let's talk about the Lakers here. Well, we've got, apparently that just the talks about with them and Davis went dormant. And I think we got an idea that was going to be the case yesterday when they pretty much leaked it that they were not interested. LeBron James and Kyle Kuzma are both available to play. And Josh Hart, not that it matters much, also available to play. Is there anything exciting from this team outside of LeBron James being $1,300 cheaper than Paul George on DraftKings and or on FanDuel and 10-4 on DraftKings, or is even that not exciting to you?
Yeah, not really. FanDuel, I think it's fine because, again, he's cheaper than George. I would still rather, I think, go to Kawhi. I think it's really similar, but, LeBron's like a 1.45 fantasy point per minute guy in a tough matchup at Boston. Kawhi's around 1.3, but he has the much more favorable matchup going at Atlanta. So I think they come out pretty similarly. And on FanDuel, I would lean towards whichever is lower owned, but I think Kawhi gives you, I don't even know if higher floor is the right word, but I think it's less likely that, Kawhi, there's a massive blowout in the Atlanta game than in this game. So maybe a little bit safer, but really, really similar. On DraftKings, where there's a pretty nice price difference between LeBron and Kawhi, I prefer Kawhi there. And even, Paul George is $400 less expensive.
Right. All right. Paul George facing that. Well, we'll get to that game in a moment. Yeah, I have a tough time getting to the Lakers here when, like, if you're talking about someone like Rondo, he's still going to get his opportunities. The price point is pretty reasonable, but at the same time, it's really tough. Brandon Ingram averages, less than 3/4 fantasy points per minute with Rondo and LeBron on the court. I get that his price point has come down, but not exactly an appealing spot against Boston either. I just have a tough time getting to them. Maybe you're more interested because the salaries have come down on guys like Ingram and Kuzma. I don't know. You can tell me.
No, I'm really not interested in Ingram here. He's just been so bad alongside LeBron, and there are enough options on the slate. I don't think I need to go there. If I were looking for one of these underpriced wings, it would be Kuzma. Kind of slowly coming back from that injury that caused him to miss a couple of games. But I think he gets a few minutes at center here. He's only $5,400. Small forward eligibility on DraftKings is nice as well. So, some interest in Kuzma, still not a ton. And then you can take a shot on JaVale McGee also. Like, he's 4,500. Don't know how many minutes he plays. I have him in at 24 right now, but we know that he's a really productive player on a per minute basis. So I don't mind taking a shot there.
Yeah. I guess the one thing I'm wondering here with this front court, knowing that Zubats is gone, is Moritz Vogner going to jump in and just eat up like 15, 18 minutes?
It's possible. Right now I have McGee at 24. I have Chandler at 18. It wouldn't be surprising if Wagner comes in and takes, and Chandler still plays like, 10. And then Wagner plays like 8 or something like that.
Right.
I think that until we see this, though, I think that it kind of has to be viewed as an upgrade for McGee.
No. It's definitely an upgrade. What I'm saying is that it's not like the only three guys that could play here are McGee, Zubats, and Chandler. So now the minutes have to be distributed evenly between McGee and Chandler.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So just in the sense of Vogner being there, there is some merit to considering how he could affect this thing. Obviously, you go nowhere near guys like that or Tyson Chandler. JaVale McGee, if anyone, and I totally agree, would be the guy. But what type of run he's going to see is yet to be seen. I have him at 22 minutes, but if he played 24 or 25, I wouldn't be too surprised. So not against that. What about the Boston side of the ball? Al Horford in a pretty favorable spot against the Lakers here. And then you've got Kyrie Irving at home against this Lakers backcourt, Sans, Lonzo Ball. Of course, you got Terry Rozier at 6K as well. But just looking throughout this team, maybe you could make the argument for Tatum. I think Horford and Irving are both pretty appealing. A lot of it comes down to positional scarcity, who's around them. But, man, Irving has proven countless times that he continues to go overlooked when his salary comes up. But there's no doubt that he can get you where you need to go at, a mid 9K price point.
Yeah, for me, Horford and Tatum are both secondary options. Like I like Horford. I prefer Miles Turner. I like Tatum, but he does take a usage hit when Kyrie comes back. So both of those guys,
we
whatever.
Also have Harrell. We also have Harrell very closely priced to Horford as well.
Yeah. And I mean, power forward's loaded as we talked about. Kyrie, I like the most from Boston, averaging nearly 1.4 fantasy points per minute over the last month. Has been playing really, really well. Gets a nice pace up spot against the Lakers. Assuming the game stays competitive, I don't really have any reason not to like him. I do think that it is worth mentioning the difference between the sites. He's up to 10-4 on FanDuel, and there's a bigger gap between him and Dame Lillard there than there is on DraftKings. So I think that I prefer Lillard there without factoring in ownership. But I think that in a vacuum, I prefer Lillard there. On DraftKings, I prefer whichever of them is projected to be lower owned because I have them projected for almost identical scores.
Excuse me, earlier in the day, Dame Lillard was projected as the highest player on DraftKings. We have since had an update just like 15 minutes ago. Damian Lillard at 25% currently, Kyrie Irving at 19%. That's on DraftKings. They are separated by $1,100. And then on FanDuel, Lillard at 9,600, 23%, second highest projected ownership to $10,400 Kyrie Irving at $20 or 20% projected ownership. So really not a big disparity there, especially on FanDuel.
Yeah, and I haven't made my lineups yet, but in situations like that, what does tend to happen for me a lot is I'll end up with, so like if we have Kyrie projected at 19 and Lillard at 25, I'll just kind of end up with like around 25% Kyrie and around like 19 Lillard.
Right. You want to move on to this next one here? We got 2 to go.
Yep.
We got OKC and Memphis. Oklahoma City Thunder, 13.5-point favorites. I actually bet on OKC earlier today at 13.5. Assuming that because the line's fine anyway. Plus, this team at home against the spread has been pretty solid for whatever that's worth. But more so, I don't know, Adam. I thought Mike Conley was destined to be moved, and
yeah, so did I.
Yeah, and now the report is, we want to keep him around to mentor Darren Jackson. Like, all right, solid use of personnel. That's literally what they said too. I mean, how maybe they just didn't get offered what they wanted. That's my guess.
Yeah, they were asking for too much.
Yeah. And hey, he's playing really well, but when it comes to Mike Conley, there is one question. And similarly with Gasol, who still has something left in the tank, so does Conley. They ain't spring chickens, man. They've been around for a while, and in terms of injury history, Mike Conley isn't exactly a spotless record. Right? I mean, he's my age, and in my age in basketball is like kind of old, especially when he's been in the league for 11 seasons. So I think the asking price on a guy that I don't want to say is a rental, but long-term, how much longer does Mike Conley play at a high level? It's yet to be seen. But anyway, let's get into it. Marcus All moved to Toronto. What else do we have for Memphis, Adam? And Shelvin Mack, who you already mentioned.
Yeah, Marcus All gone, Shelvin Mack's gone. Garrett Temple was traded with JaMychal Green to somewhere irrelevant that I can't think of. Kyle Anderson is available in case of emergency. I don't think that their current roster qualifies as an emergency.
My guess is like if 5 of them on the court all somehow run into each other at the same time and, pull a Embiid into Fultz where he shatters his eye socket and Anderson's the last guy to get 5 men out there. That's it. But what a silly statement to say, he's around in case of an emergency.
Well, my guess is that if they had also been able to move Holiday and Conley, you would have seen Anderson play.
You say if they would have been able to move Holiday and who? Conley?
Conley, yeah, and had 7 bodies or whatever.
Yeah, I guess so. Still strange, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean the weirdest part was that they're like he's available to play, but he does also still need to undergo more tests to figure out what's wrong with him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe think about holding him out. I don't know. It's crazy. They like trade Conley and Holiday, and you're like, can we make the trade and just keep him for one more night? Until we can bring 1 or 2 guys up from the G League. Just let us keep him for one more night. We'll go easy on him. I promise.
Do the hockey thing and just grab a local point guard from your local rec league.
Yeah. So here's my thing. Ivan Rabb on FanDuel is projected, or on DraftKings right now, we haven't projected to be the highest owned player. 28%. He's up to 5,100. But I still don't know what's going on with Joakim Noah. Joakim Noah this season, I'm not saying this is a spectacular basketball player, but in 13.2 minutes per game, he is averaging 1.03 fantasy points per minute. If Vonleh plays, if Joakim Noah plays, is it not possible that he plays 20, 22 minutes? He's played 21 or more minutes in 3 of his last 6 games. Gasol is gone, and Ivan Rabb's coming off a game where he played 33 and a half minutes. I don't know what to think here. If he's going to be the highest owned player, I'd almost be tempted to play a minimum salary Noah if he's active. Where are you at on this front court?
Yeah, I think the Noah news is a lot more important than it probably seems on its face.
Thank you. Yeah, yes, I feel like that hasn't been talked about at all. It's like, yep, no, Rob, no matter what happens, perfectly fine.
Yeah, so I mean, I have Noah projected in right now. I gave him 18 minutes. I think he could get more, but my point here is I gave him 18 minutes. I gave Rob 30. It made Rob a good play, but it made Rob if he's going to be the highest owned guy on the slate, I probably end up being overweight on him type play. If Noah's out and I have to give Rob underweight. Sorry.
Oh, I thought you said overweight. Go ahead.
I may have. I meant under. If Noah's out and I have to get Rob up to 32 or 33 minutes, then at 5,100 on DraftKings, I end up, I think, probably getting a lot of him. On FanDuel, where I think he's up to 6,000 or 6,100. Yeah, at a loaded position too. If he's going to be popular, then again, it's not that it's a bad spot, and he's a very productive per minute player. Even alongside Conley without Gasol this year, he's averaged 1.16 DraftKings points per minute. He's productive, but you're talking about one guy who, for one reason or another, cannot crack a rotation in the NBA. You just need something to go wrong in a spot against Steven Adams for him to bust, and you have the highest owned player on the slate, hurting you. So I think there's more than enough options that you can take shots at multiple other guys and just hope that you don't get a monster game out of Ivan Rabb here.
Right. I'll tell you, if Noah plays, I would not be surprised to see. Now, to be clear, because this is just speculation, I have him at 18 minutes if he's in. But I would not be shocked if he played 22 minutes. I really wouldn't.
Oh, not at all.
And if he did, at nearly minimum salary, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a little bit of interest. So throwing that out there, especially if Ivan Rabb is going to be as popular as he is. By the way, 13% projected ownership on FanDuel, 28 and the highest right now on DraftKings. Break down the rest of this Memphis team. We've got this and one more to go, Adam.
Yeah, so I mean, Darren Jackson, another player who I think in a vacuum, he's a good play. We saw the good game from him last time out. He should play as many minutes as he can stay on the floor for, barring foul trouble here. He's averaged 1.02 DraftKings points per minute with Conley on the floor and Gasol off. The problem is just, ownership. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm assuming that we have him projected to be highly owned because he was 30% owned last game in a very similar spot and he rewarded everyone.
We
It's
don't.
not that I
14%,
don't?
not 14% on DraftKings is not that high given his projected minutes. 14 on
What are
FanDuel.
Ibaka and Siakam on DraftKings?
So Ibaka is at 17%. Siakam is also at 17% on DraftKings. On FanDuel, Ibaka is at 17%, and Siakam is at 20%.
Okay. Yeah, so I like Ibaka and Siakam more. If they still at 630 are projected for similar ownership, then I'll probably have more Jackson than I would if Jackson were projected for the most ownership. But I still like Siakam and Ibaka more. It's just that it's a lot can go wrong here for Jackson too, and the price tag has come up to where he's a good play, but it's a lot easier for him to fail.
Agreed. Anything else for Memphis, or you want to move on to OKC?
Justin Holiday should play 40 minutes. He's at a bad position. He sucks. If you need him, feel free.
Exactly. We got to hurry this up a bit. OKC, pretty tough matchup, but two of the best players in fantasy basketball.
Yeah, George's price tag on FanDuel, I just really don't see the need to get there.
Nope.
I mentioned the other day that he's playing obviously really, really well, and we've seen an uptick in usage, but also he's shooting a lot better than normal for him. So I don't expect the recent production to keep up. But at 10K on DraftKings, I still think he's a good play. On FanDuel, I would rather just go to Kawhi or LeBron. It is worth pointing out, though, that Oklahoma City is staggering his minutes again as well, which helps his production.
Right. Also, Josh pointed out something on the DM. Motley right now projected at 8% ownership. So when it comes to Rob, I am probably not as interested as
I am. I haven't lineups yet because I don't start that until an hour before lock. But I'm pretty confident Motley would be my highest owned player.
Yeah. So so Clippers have 10 players available. Look at that timing. Delgado will be available. So there you have it. Okay. Anything else for OKC? I want to get this last game banged out and make sure we get it all in.
No, I mean, Adams is fine. It's a good matchup. I prefer Miles Turner.
All right, Portland and San Antonio. This will do it on trade deadline day. Portland 6-point favorites, 225.5 total. We'll talk about Lillard. I will say too that I don't expect him to be popular, but Yusuf Nurkic, expect potentially single-digit ownership. What do we have him at right now? On DraftKings, 11%. I wouldn't be surprised to see lower. 7,900, barring foul trouble or a blowout. Nurkic at 7,900 always has slate breaking upside. He can put up monster numbers. I get that it isn't a spectacular spot, but 7,900 for me, sub 8K on Nurkic is always viable. And then Lamarcus Aldridge coming in at 7,800 on DraftKings, even on FanDuel, is pretty interesting. Now, you had mentioned, of course, deep position, but I think both of those guys at those price points are viable. Go ahead, finish it out for us, Adam. And of course,
yeah, I mean, I like Dame a lot. No big news here. Rodney Hood expected to play for Portland. San Antonio didn't do anything. I like Lillard quite a bit. San Antonio has been struggling defensively again, 24th in defensive rating since the start of January. Kind of has gone overlooked, I think, but they have not been good. You get Dame in a really nice price tag. So I like him. I'm with you on Nurkic. Not a priority, but certainly someone that has upside in tournaments. Lamarcus Aldridge, I like, should play 34 to 36 minutes here against this former team. Not a bad matchup for him. The only problem is how deep the position is. DeMar DeRozan and Davis Bertans are both fine. Not priorities for me, though. Aldridge would be probably my highest owned guy from San Antonio.
Agreed. Definitely Aldridge at that price. And even on, like I said, on FanDuel, was he 8,500? Is really not that bad given what we've seen him priced at. Yeah, I think that'll do it for us. And then, did you mention Bertans?
Yeah, he's fine. Like, I have him around 24, 25 fantasy points.
Okay. I still think he can get up around 30 plus minutes though, because even in the game where where Aldridge played and White was out, Bertans got a lot of heavy run, and had that game not blown out yesterday, he was on track to play a lot more minutes. So keep that in mind. 30. Yeah, I don't think Bertans is a bad play. And my guess is that most people, the flavor of the week is gone now because, everybody's back and Derek White's still out. And that was why Bertans got that extended run in the first game, and he's still out. So you have that. Anyway, hey, we appreciate you guys. As always, thanks for tuning in and watching the Deeper Dive. It's been a wild day with the trade deadline. Live Before Lock coming up after this. It is Thursday night, so you've got Josh and Eddie. And as always, If you appreciate our content, you want to see more, don't think we're brainwashing you and believe that we want to help you win. Hit us with a thumbs up, like the video. It really helps us out, and we appreciate it a ton. Subscribe, hit that notification bell so you always know when new content's going to drop. We'll see you back here tomorrow to close out the week on the Deeper Dive. Good luck, friends.